When you carry unhealed emotional weight, the world doesn't pause for you to process it. You often end up completely frozen in place, while the community around you demands constant motion and productivity. In many marginalized and rural communities, we use specific language to move past these struggles. We tell each other to pray it away, or we insist on keeping those issues strictly inside the family. These phrases evolved as valid adaptations to a history of systemic healthcare harm and rigid religious framing. Leaning entirely on faith or family secrecy was once a necessary strategy for navigating hostile environments. Those generational scripts successfully kept our ancestors alive through extreme hardship, but they achieved that survival by simply burying the pain deep down. And unaddressed pain never stays buried forever. Suppressed trauma reroutes itself. When emotional pain is denied a voice, it eventually finds expression through our physical health and our behaviors. Often, the body keeps score through chronic physical illness. Hidden stress manifests as unexplainable aches, fatigue, and tension that medical tests cannot trace back to a biological cause. This unaddressed pain also drives a reliance on substance use and self-medication as a way to numb the constant underlying pressure. In our homes, these wounds dictate our interactions. We repeat destructive relationship cycles because we are operating from the same unhealed experiences as the generation before us. In our careers, it shows up as professional burnout. We push ourselves to the point of collapse because our culture frames that exhaustion as being strong. This is the compounding interest of suppressed symptoms. Unresolved emotional weight at the top of a family tree transfers directly down to the lower lineage tiers, creating a cycle of generational trauma. Earnest, when we strictly follow the survival strategies of the past, we ensure that our unresolved pain becomes the baseline inheritance for our children. Addressing your mental health provides the emotional stability and clarity needed to protect your family and your faith for the long term. Modern clinical care uses a standard called culturally responsive therapy. It is designed specifically to dismantle the historical mistrust that has historically tucked marginalized communities away from the therapy room. In this model, clinicians treat your spiritual life as a core component of your health. They respect and integrate your religious faith into the clinical process. These therapists intrinsically understand specific cultural family dynamics. This allows you to focus on healing rather than spending your sessions translating your upbringing for a provider who doesn't get it. When the clinical environment validates your specific cultural roots, therapy becomes a practical tool for community empowerment. Coping and Healing Counseling, or CHC, delivers this standard of culturally responsive care across the state of Georgia. They intentionally hire and train licensed professionals from Black, Latino, Asian, African immigrant, and faith-informed backgrounds. This ensures the clinical roster matches the lived experience of the community. To remove physical barriers, CHC uses a 100% HIPAA-compliant telehealth architecture, making professional support accessible from any private space. This telehealth network covers the entire state. Digital access reaches individuals in all 159 Georgia counties, from rural areas to city centers. This allows a remote patient to connect directly with a culturally matched therapist hundreds of miles away. CHC's infrastructure removes the historical barrier of isolation. Your zip code no longer dictates whether you can find a therapist who understands your heritage and your history. You have a right to absolute privacy as you begin this process. You can start your journey toward healing without the immediate pressure of informing your family. The entry point is low stakes. You can begin with a single intake session to request a cultural or faith-based match, with no long-term obligation to continue if it doesn't feel right. We also have to address the financial barrier that often prevents people from seeking help. CHC is structured for economic accessibility. For Medicaid patients, the out-of-pocket copay is $0. For major providers like Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, and Humana, the cost typically ranges between $10 and $40 per session. When representation, geography, and cost are removed as obstacles, the process becomes about a single choice. Breaking a generational cycle of pain requires one person to decide the weight stops with them. You honor your roots when you finally choose to heal.